Chapter 17, Blazing Pure. Yanlin didn't expect that the group of people in Uncle Qingyuan's mansion would be so noisy, and because Uncle Qingyuan personally came to talk to him for a while, he couldn't get out for the time being, so he didn't come out until this twilight. Originally, I was going to go to the floor of the sky, but when I arrived at the entrance of the street, I found that this place had been blocked by officers and soldiers, and when I asked, I said that there was an assassin in the front floor of the sky, and I almost panicked. He wanted to go in, but it was Xie Wei inside, and he didn't dare to make a mistake. Fortunately, someone went to spread the word, and when they came back, they also brought Zhang Suining back. Ning Ning. Seeing her come out, Yanlin was in a hurry, and he didn't care if there were people around him, so he took her hand and looked her up and down. I didn't get hurt and didn't fall anywhere, right? Zhang Suining had just passed through the sudden thrilling. Although she had walked all the way, her legs were a little weak, and she couldn't come back to her senses when she saw Yanlin. She didn't blink until she heard him scream several times. Only said, "It's okay, there is no danger." Although the person didn't see any injuries, his palm-sized face was so white that he couldn't see blood, and his expression was also in a trance, and he was frightened at first glance. Yanlin's brows not only did not loosen, but frowned even tighter. He held her hand, only to feel that her fingers were cold, and his heart was a little twitched for a while, and he lowered his voice to coax her, don't be afraid, I'm here now. It's all wrong to blame me, I shouldn't have given those people in Bafu any face, I shouldn't have asked you to wait for me on the floor, so I wouldn't have met assassins. Where is Zhang Suining afraid of assassins? What she is afraid of is that how good others think of it, the saint-like Emperor Xie Wei. And she recalled the conversation between the two of them that was secretly sharp, only to find out that Xie Wei actually knew about her relationship with Yanlin. When the next person came to report, he only said that Yanlin was coming in, but he didn't mention her. Xie Wei glanced at her directly and asked Jianxia to send her out. It must be known that she used to go out with Yanlin as a woman and a man, and the matter did not spread. Where did Xie Wei come from? At this time, Zhang Suining thought of a lot of possibilities, maybe from the Yanji Marquis mansion, maybe from her father Zhang Boyu. But after all, for Xie Wei, this is a matter that he knows very well. Then Xie Wei in his previous life must also know. In this way, Xie Wei's attitude towards her in the previous life, no matter what, can be completely explained. Because she lost Yanlin, she indirectly harmed the Yanji Marquis mansion, and even later reused Zhou Yinzi. Zhang Suining felt the hot temperature of the young man's palm, as if he could also feel the blazing in his heart, and when he looked up, he touched his sincere and distressed eyes, and he didn't dare to look at it for a while. Because of her meanness. Because of her hypocrisy. Yanlin was still worried about her. You were frightened today, you should go home and sleep early to recuperate. We won't go to the Lantern Festival. When it opens again in the future, I'll take you with me. So saying, he was going to pull the carriage beside her. Zhang Suining's heart was sour, and she pulled his hand and said, "No, I want to go." Resisting the urge to cry, she curled her lips and smiled at him, trying to reassure him and tell him that she was okay. Yanlin just looked at her quietly. After a long time, he laughed, "But you said you were going." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward, grabbed her by the waist, and carried her onto the horse. Where can Zhang Suining react? His eyes widened for a while, and he couldn't control himself, and he exclaimed in a low voice, "Yanlin." Yanlin laughed out loud and didn't explain, then he helped the saddle and sat behind her, pulling the reins with one hand and flicking the whip with the other, half enclosing her in his arms, and hitting the horse directly. The horses spread their hooves and ran. The cold autumn wind swept into the face of the hunting ground, and the sparse pedestrians on the street and the rows of buildings on both sides of the line of sight rushed past at a rapid pace. Jiang Xunning's back was tightly pressed against the young man's already broad chest, and for a moment there was only the sound of the wind and the hearty laughter behind him, and he felt that his heart was beating more violently than when he met the assassin and Xie Wei. It was only after she finally came to her senses. "I couldn't hold back for a while. You're sick." Yan Lin laughed so much that his entire chest was shaking, and he was very happy. "I have it." Jiang Xuning was angry. Yan Lin knew that she was afraid, but instead of letting the horse's speed slow down, she urged the horse to run faster, and only asked her, "Are you not afraid now?" Jiang Xuning said that she was almost scared to death, and she was going to scold him back. But when the words were about to be spoken, he was stunned. Yes. At the moment when he picked up the horse and galloped on the street, everything she had encountered in the sky building became a blank, and she forgot all about it. Jiang Xuning reacted, and didn't know whether to be moved or continue to scold him. But when he dismounted, his legs almost went limp, and he couldn't stand. After being helped by him to stand firmly, and seeing him shrugging his shoulders and snickering, she clenched her fist and hammered the cub in a fit of anger. "You still laugh endlessly, right? You try again. She is a girl's family, and it doesn't hurt to beat people at all." Yan Lin has been raised in the military camp by her family for most of the time since she was a child, and she has practiced martial arts solidly. Where is she afraid of these 2 times? Just stand there and let her hammer. Then I had to cover my chest, so fake that I couldn't pretend to be in pain. "Oh, it hurts, it hurts, it hurts." Jiang Xuning glared at him and simply stopped beating him. Everyone knows he doesn't hurt. The chest of the young man who practices martial arts is also hard, and it doesn't hurt him if he beats him. The key is that his hand hurts. Simply turned around and walked towards the lively lantern festival, and said, "I'm too lazy to take care of you." Yan Lin didn't mind, but caught up with a smile on his face, and asked her after a while, "Is there a candy man over there that you want to eat? Look, let's put one too." "Ning Ning, look at the one they wear on their heads, it's so good looking, I'll buy you one." Flower lanterns. There are people who guess lantern riddles. Quick, follow me. Jiang Xuning was born with a fun-loving temperament, and after returning from rebirth, this is the first time she has gone out in a real sense. At first, I was a little unaccustomed to it, but I was taken by Yan Lin, asking left and right sentence by sentence, and after a while, I regained the feeling I had when I was a teenager. Walk through the crowd without restraints. This side of the world is not cramped by cunning palace, it is vast and boundless, and she is a fish that rejoices in it. So she remembered why she always liked to be with Yan Lin when she was young. She is a child who grew up in the countryside, but after returning to the capital, she has to follow the house to learn such and such rules, not only worried that she will not be liked by the new parents, but also worried that she will be scared and ridiculed for not being as good as the sister who grew up in the house. She can't go out all day long, and the people she sees are always the same things, which is really depressing and boring. It was Yan Lin who gave her a chance to break free from everything. Although he was young, he had traveled a lot with his father, and had many extraordinary things to see, not only taking her to be presumptuous in this capital, but also telling her about the magnificent rivers and mountains, customs outside that she had never known, and it was a bright window for her to peek into everything that made her curious. And he gave her a love she never received. It's like the brightest color on the painting. Such a good young man, what kind of cold heart did she have back then, and she could bear to hurt him with such cruel words. Yan Lin took her to guess the lantern riddle. Although the color of guessing the riddle is some worthless gadgets, it doesn't cost money, it feels like it was picked up for nothing, and when I really took that a lot of things in my hands, I only felt happier than spending money to buy them. The streets are full of beautiful lanterns. As soon as the night wore on, it was all lit up. Walking in it is like wandering in a sea of light. There are also vendors selling some food on the side of the road. Yanlin actually saw someone put a basket of chicken head rice on the table, beckoning the guests to buy it, so he remembered that Ning Ning loved this thing a lot, so he pulled her to buy it. There were many people who bought it, and in the end there were not a few left. Seeing that he was dressed brightly, the vendor hurriedly smiled and said, "The high-quality purple flour chicken head rice just shipped from Suzhou before the other day is delicious. Do you want to taste it?" Chicken head rice, also known as gourd, is generally planted in the south, because of the appearance of the shape of the chicken head and get the name, but what is eaten is the rice inside after being broken, that is, the core inside. It's a bit like lotus seeds. Yanlin took a few and looked at them, and only said, "The water conditions on the Cao River have not been good in the past 2 days, where can you transport fresh chicken head rice from Suzhou? Even the lychees that are urgent for 800 miles can't be so fast. It's grown in Shisaha, right?" The peddler sneered, "Yes, you are really sharp-eyed. But this taste is no worse than Suzhou's. You can taste it?" Yanlin broke it open, picked up a round fruit inside, and handed it to Zhang Xunning's mouth. Zhang Xunning subconsciously opened her mouth. Yanlin asked her, "Is it delicious?" Zhang Xunning nodded. Yanlin said, "Give me the rest of the rest." He handed out a piece of broken silver, and he didn't need to be looked for by the other party, so he loaded the chicken head and left. Zhang Xunning played and ate all the way, and when she was finally tired of playing, Yanlin pulled her to the steps in front of Beguo Temple to sit down and rest. In front of the temple, a large area of ginkgo biloba is planted. By this late autumn season, all the leaves have turned yellow, falling from the trees and spreading all over the ground. The evening classes of the monks in the temple are over, and the streets in the distance are bustling and lively, but the evening bell is ringing nearby, and it is quiet and quiet. Yanlin sat next to Zhang Xunning. These days, he has also heard about some things in Jiang's mansion, but he feels that she seems to have changed a little, and it doesn't seem to be the same as before. He wanted to ask. But when she turned her head, she saw her sitting on the steps with her feet crossed, intently and without distraction, eating the last piece of chicken's head rice, and everyone else was pulling out the fruit inside to eat, but she was sometimes accustomed to leaning up and eating it, like a chicken pecking at rice. So I laughed for a moment. What's the difference? It's still his Ning Ning. Yanlin was also a little tired, so he lay down beside her along the steps, looked at the starry night sky, and said to her with a smile, "Ning Ning, I will be crowned soon." Zhang Xunning was silent for a moment. She didn't want to talk about what he really wanted to talk about, so she said, "I have someone I want to recommend to you." Yanlin was curious, "Who?" Zhang Xunning said, "His name is Zhou Yanzi. He was originally a servant of my family, and later followed his father to do things, and his father found a position for him in Jinyue. In the past few days, there seems to be something going on in the court, and he begged to come to my side, trying to find this shortage and take your way." This person Yanlin had heard of it. He didn't ask a few more questions, and then said, "Then you can ask him to take the name card to vote for me another day. As long as he can do it, he will always blindly meet her requirements." This kind of answer is almost the same as in the previous life. Zhang Xunning then remembered Zhou Yanzi. She wanted to avoid the Yanji Marquis mansion from repeating the mistakes of the previous life, and she also wanted to save Yanlin. But now she is no one, and she can only use this one person. In the end, what she is doing now, how far she can save, even she has no confidence. At this moment, he slowly lowered his hand. A fresh and tender gourd was pinched by her fingertips, her eyelashes trembled slightly, and she suddenly asked, "Yanlin, you are so good to me, what do you like about me?" Although she is good looking, other ladies in Beijing are not bad. As for temperament, she is more cunning than others. The academic accomplishment is also extremely mediocre. In the words of her mother, it is not on the stage. But Yanlin likes it? Yanlin felt that she was stupid, and said as a matter of course, the first time I saw you, I knew that you were different from the girl in the capital. A pair of eyes are really real when they look at people, and they don't know how to hide it at all. If you want to grab it, if you are not happy, you will not give anyone a good face, and if you are happy, you can coax people to be sweet, but when you are sad, you have to hide and cry. I thought that this person should be a person who is loved by others, and it would be a very happy thing if she could ask her to take me to heart every day, look at me brightly with that kind of expectant look, and coax me to her heart. Zhang Xuning felt sour again, but no one else likes me. Wan Niang doesn't like it, her mother doesn't like it, the people in the house don't like it, and the other people in the capital don't like it either. So, you haven't thought about it, in fact, you like the wrong person. Yanlin, do you know? I won't always be the little girl who is satisfied with being held in the palm of your hand. I'm going to grow up, I'm going to be bad. Yanlin finally noticed the crying in her voice, and slowly sat up from the steps, staring at her red eyes, only to feel that her heart was blocked, and she was a little stuffy. He reached out and touched her head. But laughed, nonsense. You think, your Wanyang actually didn't need to let the house know that you and your sister had changed. As long as she doesn't say it, your sister will always be Miss Yan of Zhang Mansion. If she goes, the secret will be buried in the Lois. But before she died, she had her own flesh and blood, but she was willing to risk her suffering and send you home. How can you say she doesn't love you? The tears in Zhang Xuning's eyes rolled down. She remembered Wan Niang. Also remembered the bracelet that Wan Niang stuffed into her hand before she left. For some reason, although I tried my best to stop the tears, I cried more and more. The chicken head was soaked in tears. Yanlin looked distressed, took it from her fingertips, and in her mouth, it was full of bitter salt. He said, my Ning Ning deserves the best love in the whole world. Zhang Xuning buried her head and still cried. The girl's pink face was like a cold epiphany blooming under the moon under the hazy light around her, and the tears slipped down but were soaked in the starlight of the night, looking pitiful and painful. Yanlin said softly again, don't cry. At this moment, he felt that he was obsessed, and he could neither control his thoughts nor his hands and feet, so he actually leaned over, put his trembling fingers against her cheek, and then pressed his lips to it. Little by little, lick and kiss away that tear stain. Like a toothy but docile little beast, there is an instinct to be close to her. Zhang Xuning was stunned. Yanlin felt that when his lips covered her cheeks, his whole body warmed up, and even his heart was beating wildly in his chest. At this point, he barely knew what he was doing. But the lip flap had moved down, and before I knew it, it had fallen on her two soft lips. Her slight coolness. He's piping hot. The different temperatures, at the moment of touching, woke Yanlin up. Until this moment, looking at the pair of eyes that were close at hand, he didn't know whether to be shocked or stunned. His fingertips immediately let go as if they were burned by a soldering iron, and retreated. What did he just do? Yanlin's young man's face suddenly turned red, and he felt embarrassed for a while, so he hurriedly turned his back and coughed, I'm rude. Zhang Xuning. On the steps in front of the temple, I couldn't hear anything for a while. The boy could only hear his own pounding heartbeat. He looked at the ginkgo biloba, whose leaves had almost fallen off, and after a long time, he turned his back to the girl sitting in front of the steps and said, Ning Ning, after the crown ceremony, marry me.